Welcome back to Mindful Endeavors. Today we have Zach from the 12 Hike Challenge. Really quick, as usual, disclaimer is we're not mental health professionals. We're just two regular people talking about mental health and how we perceive things, how we see things in the world, and if anything that we've experienced, whether through our personal experiences or somebody else's experiences. If any of this resonates, then do you think you can incorporate it into your life and for the better, you're more than welcome to use it. As always, you know what's best for you. So if you need help, feel free to ask for a trained professional. All right. So Zach, you are part of the 12 Hike Challenge. That's so I've met Zach. Yep, that's right. The cap, for those that are not watching, he's wearing a cap that has the 12 Hike logo and everything. It's pretty dope. So we met I'm not too familiar with social media, or at least I don't have too much experience, but back when I was starting this podcast, I was looking for a guest, and Zach responded to one of my comments, and the reason why I definitely wanted to have Zach on the podcast because he gave me advice to actually starting it, and you're one of the reasons why I'm here today with the podcast. So I'm always happy to have you on, and really quick, go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do around the outdoors and everything.
Yeah, before I get started, one of the whole reasons your name even popped up on my radar, you had commented on someone's post that you were starting a podcast and you wanted them as a guest.
Right.
And I was like, oh, they would be a good guest. Maybe I should see if they want to also. And so I reached out to that same person, and then I sent you the message like, oh, you can send me the link you get started.
I mean, it didn't work out for that guest, and it's fine. I mean, no hard feelings or anything, but I mean, she was of good, because I think it was for the business that she was going to start around getting kids into fishing or fly fishing specifically. So I thought that was perfect for what we're trying to do here in terms of trying to, blend mental health and the outdoors.
It was even more than that. It was more of an alternative education.
Oh, yeah.
Due to public schools being shut down, she was offering a full range of nature-based education programs. So they covered all the same state curriculums. They just did it out in nature.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So I talked to her. She's interesting. I've got it in my backlog. I've got 2 months worth of people that I just haven't put out yet. But I guess as far as my story goes, so 12 Hike was actually started about 3 years ago by a guy named Brad Penix. He's my cousin. He's my friend. And he started 12 Hike. Originally, it was called 12 Hike Challenge. Because he wanted people in our area to get outdoors at least one time a month. So 12 Hike, 12 months in a year. And he was doing organized hikes for people. And he was doing them in areas that people maybe had never heard of in southern Ohio. So in that area, you've got a couple of national forests that are pretty well known. And then there are a lot of areas that people just don't know anything about. And he was trying to get that kind of awareness out. Well, life hit, and he had work, he has kids, and his participation kind of dropped off. Well, about the same time, my crazy self decided it'd be a good idea to uproot my entire family, wife and 2 kids, and move to Colorado. So as he was winding down, I moved, and then I made this weird transition from being a working dad. I worked 45 to 50 hours a week for almost 10 years. And I transitioned into this space where I was going to be the one taking care of the kids all the time. I don't have a job. And it still is a hard transition for me. I have a hard time coping with the idea that I don't contribute financially to my family. I don't know, this is an opinion, but men are wired a little differently than women. Our gratification comes from more physical things, money, raises. In my old job, I could look at quarterly sales over last year, and I could say, oh man, I'm crushing last year. That made me feel good. Well, with staying at home, when I get my kid to eat an apple slice, it's like, yeah, I'm doing something good. It's not the same. So I was struggling really hard, and I still kept in contact with him, and I just started putting up some of my hiking pictures onto his 12 Hike Challenge Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to poo-poo on Southern Ohio, but the hiking out here is a little bit different. We've got these awesome mountain vistas and these crazy trails, mule deer, elk. It's wild.
Yeah.
And I started posting a bunch of crap on there. And whether it's because he felt bad that he wasn't pushing out as awesome content as I was, or just because he sincerely wanted to help, he asked me, hey, I don't have time to take care of this thing. Why don't you kind of take it over and help me out a little bit? So I agreed. And then as a result of that, I wanted to put my own spin on it. I'm a podcast junkie. I love listening to podcasts, and I've always thought I could do one. And, I thought about it, and it's a low-risk venture. There's no harm in it. I'm just talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off with the most bare bones of equipment and started talking to people and putting it out there. It's a project of passion. I'm not making any money off of it, but it's something that I really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And it's helped me gain that connection back to the adult world, where I'm not talking to a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old all the time.
Right.
I get some adult conversation, and it's really helped me out. It's given me something to work toward. I get that physical, like, oh my God, we've got this many downloads, this many likes on Facebook. It's helping me get some of that stuff back in my life.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't say that opinion's very far off. I mean, like you said, we are wired a little bit different. My first guest on the show, he's another reason why this podcast is what it is, and it became what it is. So we talked about that because, a lot of people lost their jobs during COVID, and we saw suicides go up. It's one of those things where, like, we both kind of agree that, we as men, and again, like you said, as an opinion, we as men, we want to be able to we want to be able to provide and be dependent on. And like I told him, like, whether it's a single income household or a dual income household, like, I want to contribute. I mean, if, I can imagine, being in a position that you were in, that you just described. So it's definitely something that, it's not really talked about like a whole lot, and we still talk about more about lockdowns and stuff like that. But we're not talking about, do people have like the adequate needs mentally to really be able to, pull through all this? And it's different because there is a stigma too around mental health around men, because you can't ask for help. You look kind of weak, you're supposed to toughen up. There is still a bit of a stigma in our society, and it's not to demasculate anybody or anything like that, but it's just, it doesn't hurt to ask for help.
Bill Burr, do you listen to
Oh, yeah.
much?
Yeah.
Bill Burr has a great bit about men sharing their feelings. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I remember listening to something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went, but yeah, I'm already laughing just when you mentioned it.
I'm not going to say the bit because there's some pretty offensive language in there.
Yeah.
But it's something to the effect of, why are you telling me that, you sissy? I don't want to hear that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as a man, you take those emotions, you put it into a big ball, and you swallow it, you cram it down in there. And then eventually you explode.
Yeah.
There's only so much that a person can take.
Yeah.
And, just a few weeks ago, I kind of hit that point. I had a crisis moment for me mentally. Mm-hmm. And it comes from just that shifting dynamic of not being a provider. Mm-hmm. So when that was not taken away from me, when I chose to not do that, like it or not, the whole dynamic of my marriage changed. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow. Mm-hmm. I come from a long line of working men that have provided for their families no matter what. And while I'm providing for my family in a different way, it's not the same.
Right.
Part of me feels guilty for it. Part of me feels a little bit ashamed. All that aside, I'm raising my kids, which is great. Mm-hmm. They're not in a daycare. They're not with other people. I'm teaching them the values that I want them to have. But at the same time, as a man, is that really quite enough? Yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I mean, I don't have kids myself. I have a glimpse of what it's like to kind of be a parent, and that only came from when I was living in California, and my sister and her son lived with me, and he was I basically interacted with him since birth. And then when he was like a toddler, I changed him, I fed him, I took care of him, and to this day, he and I are just like super super close, to the point where I did kind of see him a little bit as a son. And like whenever when he was going to preschool, right now, obviously schools are shut down even worse over there than they are here in Texas. But when he went to preschool, I bought him his school supplies, bought him like anything that they wanted for whatever thing they want to do. I would tell my sister, hey, how much do you need? I'll help you out, whatever. So I have a glimpse. And the reason why I say a glimpse, because the one benefit, the one perk that I had in this type of relationship is that once his mom came home, all right, here you go. I get to go and do whatever I want now.
Having a kid at your house full time certainly changes things. I know for me that was a really hard transition, and accepting the fact that I'm here for them and I'm at their mercy in a way. Mm-hmm. So because they can't take care of themselves,
right?
Whenever they're hungry, they can't go make a sandwich or something. Mm-hmm. They need me to do that. So, realizing that it was up to me to do those things, but at the same time, realizing that, I can't do the things that I want to do anymore all the time. So if I just want to sit down and relax, drink a pop and play on Facebook, that stuff don't fly anymore, because I've got a 4-year-old that's doing a cannonball off the couch onto me. They're savages. I can't sit anywhere because they're jumping on me. It's my fault. I wrestle, whatever. I don't care.
That's what happened with my nephew, because I taught him how to wrestle, and now he just does a frog splash on everybody.
I don't want to teach them because they'll be dangerous.
Yeah. No, I learned that the hard way too, yeah.
But, something that simple, not being able to sit down and focus completely on me, was tough. And it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get over. But once you get over that hump of going, okay, these guys, these kids are what's most important, then it's just a matter of time before you make that transition into, I'm comfortable with this. Mm-hmm. I'm doing something that is harder than working a 40-hour week job.
Yeah.
I've never worked this hard in my life.
No, yeah, I mean, again, I can empathize just from my experience, but that's something that I don't think a lot of people really understand now, because it's almost like it got normalized where both parents have to work. Like I was very fortunate that, I mean, granted, we weren't the richest family, but at least in terms of a roof and whatever little bit of food we were able to afford, we're good. But I had the luxury, and I do say luxury now. I mean, I do mean it, is that my mom wasn't working, and and I'm lucky that it was my mom, because my mom, she basically fought for us and everything, and she's kind of the reason why, like, I don't have a criminal record, pretty much, like, plain and simple. I mean, and I think that's what people have, like, I think they underrate it so much, like. And that's kind of another stigma, like from society. Like when you look, like, again, because we go back to how men are wired versus how women are wired, kind of society kind of still plays into that, where it's like, well, if you're not a breadwinner, what are you doing, right? Which I think I'm gonna just call total BS, because I think, like you said, raising your kids is a lot more work than having a 40-hour job, and it's actually more vital to society than if you like paying taxes or anything like that. Like it's just like you create people, like you create more citizens that are respectful and everything because you're raising them that way. So I think that's great. Yeah.
I was kind of lucky. I grew up in I guess what you consider a traditional Appalachian setting. The good traditional Appalachian setting. I don't know what you know about that area. The reason we moved, drugs, homelessness, and joblessness were just going rampant. Mm-hmm. They're making movies about the area. There's been documentaries, books, the whole thing. The area is just, it's not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. And when you think of a traditional Appalachian family, it's this strong family unit that sticks by each other and helps each other out. And that's what we were. So I grew up on this plot of land where I had my grandma and grandpa, my aunt and uncle, and a driveway in between them. And you follow the driveway up the hill, and there was my house. So my wife calls it a village. It's the Jenkins village.
Okay.
Because we were all right there. I could throw rocks and hit everybody's house. And, for the first maybe 5 or 6 years of my life, I lived with my grandparents, not out of necessity, but because I chose to. I was super close to my grandpa, and my grandpa was this, strong but sympathetic Christian man that taught me probably some of the most endearing virtues that I could ever have. Patience, kindness, a willingness to do whatever it takes. And that's what he was. He was a dirt poor kid, who's raised in the Depression, and his family didn't have electric until after World War II. They never had running water.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what it meant to struggle, but because they had this strong family unit, they were able to pull through it because they helped each other.
Right.
And that's a lot. There's a lot missing in that too. I know a lot of people, crap on the idea of the nuclear family, the traditional 2-parent household. There's something to be said for that as far as stability in a culture and community.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think in an ideal situation, both a single parent and a nuclear family can exist, really, and it's not a one size fits all. That's one of the things I've been constantly saying in every episode, that with a lot of things in life, it's not one size fits all. Like, I personally would prefer more of a nuclear family, to be honest, because that's what I knew. Like, from my personal experience, I knew that having both parents, if I only had one of them, I'd be in a way worse position than I am now. To kind of return that favor to my mom, I bought a house, had everybody moved in with me, and we all got out of it. Like, even though I'm the youngest in my family, we're all still sticking together. The only thing that I laugh about it, just because of how different I am compared to my family. Like, we're all kind of very similar, right? But I'm the only one that's actually willing to adventure out. So that's why I'm here in Texas. They're still in California, and I'm the only one here. And one day, because I think my dad was like this when he was growing up. I remember my uncle telling me some stories, but I'm the only one that's really kind of impulsive and not to my own detriment, but it's just like one day I was just like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of California. I want to try a different state. And then I got offered a job in Texas. I'm like, all right, Mom, I'm going to Texas. And been here for the last 2 years.
How did you feel about that?
The move?
Did she give you a lot of crap?
Oh, dude, she didn't stop crying. Like, I told her, like, so I accepted the job 2 months before I actually moved, and she cried every single day up until I left, probably even more after I left. So, yeah, she gave me a lot of crap, and it was hard for me. Like, at first I was all like gun ho and very excited and everything, but once I started driving down that road, like I started thinking about my nephew, and then I had a niece that was barely a year old, and I was barely like developing my relationship with her. Like, she and I are solid now. Like, she and I are like also just as close, but I had to briefly interrupt that, and I was feeling pretty bad. I was just like telling myself constantly, like, what have I done? What have I done? And more for my mom too, and my mom and dad, because again, I took them out of like the bad area that we were at, and we moved to a lot nicer area. So I was just like, I hope that I don't fail, because if I fail, then they're gonna feel the consequences of my failure. So there was a lot of mental stress from that too, like coming over here. Once I moved over here and I saw that, like, all right, well, this is my situation. I have this expenses, I have this, and then the lack of income tax helped me be able to live here and still help them out over there. So that once I got all that settled down, it worked out better. And that's kind of like, like I said, like my issues with mental health, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have some issues that they've been struggling with since they were a kid. Mine was something like that.
Yeah. Some of the last things my grandpa said to me before he passed away, I can't think of anything worse than splitting up a family.
Yeah.
And that was about 3 weeks before he moved.
Yeah.
He was happy with me moving away. I always joke I was kind of the golden child of the family. So it was a tough blow for him that I was moving away. But failure is a funny thing, isn't it? Like you fear failing. I went to college for 4 years. I've got a bachelor's in professional education studies. I was going to be a teacher. And the last semester before I got my teaching certificate, all I had to do was student teaching and a couple of bullcrap classes. I had another moment where I was like, I can't do this. I am not a teacher. And I had to change my degree around, wasted 4 years of college for this bullcrap degree that really doesn't mean anything. And the weight of that failure really hung on me for a long time. Looking back, it was the best decision I ever made. I think being a teacher in today's climate would have been horrible for me. But at the moment, that crushing weight of, man, I made a huge mistake, is tough to deal with. And, same thing with moving away. There are times whenever I'm like, man, what am I doing out here? I moved away from my family. I moved away from my friends. I had a good job. My wife had a good job. Did I make a mistake? And it's kind of the wrong way to look at it. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, this is where I'm at. Let me make the best of it.
Right.
And if it doesn't work out, I can always make another decision to try to get out of this one. Just, that forward thinking. And, with people being isolated and locked away from each other, I think you're losing some of that optimism.
Right. I agree 100%. No, yeah.
It's a tough thing.
It really is. I definitely agree with that sentiment. I know you, the viewers can't really see, but you were doing the air quotes when we were talking about the word failure, and I wouldn't necessarily it's kind of hard to really call something a failure without giving it time to see where it leads you, right? Like some people might say, like, well, I failed at this. Okay, but now you got perfect example. My best friend, he went to school with me. We both went to the same college. He flunked out his first year, and I don't know if he wants me to talk about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to listen, which I'm going to give him crap because I just sent him the link to the podcast episodes. But he's somebody that I respect a lot, though. Like honestly, that's the reason why he's my best friend. And so he flunked out. Not going to say the reasons why, but he flunked out for personal decisions that he made. Somehow, some way, he met up with this dude. They opened up a shop. Then eventually he got full control of the shop, and now he's been working an auto repair shop ever since. And he has enough money to really be on his own in California because California is really expensive. He's doing really well. He's working for himself. He can take. He has employees now, so now he can take vacations when he needs to decompress. But he likes doing all that stuff. Like ever since we were in 7th grade, he would always go to the library. We would go to the library together, but he would always check out the auto repair books. Like he would always look at those. So one can look at that and see, well, you failed because you flunked out of college. But did he really? Because I was basically spending. Because I think around that time tuition started going up. I was basically spending anywhere from $7,000 to $14,000-$19,000 per year on the next 3 to 4 years, almost 5. Whereas he was getting himself in debt, but it was his own business. He had he had assets. He had some kind of liquidity to his business, and it's not easy, right? The first year. I think he only got 4 or 5 cars, and he was just I don't know if I could keep going. But luckily, he was still able to, he was still working, so he was able to cover his costs. But he stuck with it. By the 3rd year, he started actually turning it around, and yeah. So again, you can't really call it something the stress of the word failure. I think we give it more power than it should have, really, because again, if it's just purely out of context, it's going to control you. You got to look at what's going to come after that.
Yep. As far as education goes, that's another funny thing. I come from a family of laborers. My dad's a union laborer. He tried to get me in the trades, and I said, those guys would eat me alive. I don't have the personality to work with a bunch of those crazy.
Yeah.
And my brother, who hated school, fought my mom day in, day out. We didn't think he was going to amount to anything. And lo and behold, the union Boilermakers offered a free apprenticeship. The only deal was you had to show up for class, and if you were late 3 times for class, they kicked you out.
Okay.
In the first week, I was late 2 times.
Ooh.
And the director of the Boilermaker said, "You're not going to make it." And my brother said, "Hell, I ain't. I'm going to make it." Here he is 5 years later. He's dragging down twice as much money as I ever did working. And I wasn't even working in a profession that I had a degree in. So,
Yeah.
you know, go be your own person. That's all you can say. If you have a desire to, let's say, podcast, you've got to grind at real world things to make money to support your passions.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you grind hard enough and you work hard enough, your passions will start to support you, and you can let go of the things that you don't want to do.
Mm.
And if you look at all successful people, that's what they do. It's not that maybe once in a while you'll have a goose that lays a golden egg and you'll have this magic idea plop in your lap. Most people have to do 2 things at once. One thing they don't like, one thing they love, and eventually the thing they love can support them.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'm grinding at being a stay-at-home dad, just trying to make time to do stuff like this, but, you know, for someone like you who has a full-time job, yeah, you don't want to, maybe you love your job, and it's fine, but you have a passion for podcasting. It's something you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're smart enough to realize you need the other thing to do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because like I've already shared what other business adventures I'm going to look into, and all that is dependent on my primary job, right? And like you said, like sometimes you get like somebody gets a golden goose egg, and like I think that was me to a certain degree, because like I'm looking at the situation now, like with the college graduates, and like because I remember during my time in college, like. The one thing to go to was some kind of chemical engineering or IT. I was an accountant major first, which I regretted it. It was so boring. I mean, in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have stuck with it a little bit, just because, again, business ventures. But anyway, so I ended up double majoring in computer information systems and in accounting, and luckily I stuck with the information systems, and I was able, with the utility company out in California, I was able to get an internship that ended up being more of a full-time job, because I was working like 36 hours a week, even while going to school, and that got my foot in the door, because at that point now I had on the piece of paper that mattered, the resume, that I had 2 years of experience in that. So it was easier for me to get into the next level and just continually progress to where I'm at now, where I see a bunch of other people that are in similar situations as me, and they're not working what they're supposed to be working in, or they're working in, like, they are working in IT, but they're basically doing the grunt equivalent of what an IT person would be doing. Yes, and they're grinding it out, maybe to no progression. I don't know, but yeah. So right now I'm in a very fortunate position where I'm working, I have my full-time job, pays for the expenses that are going into the podcast and fishing and all that stuff. And because the podcast and the fishing stuff, they're all basically my business. It's more like kind of like what you said earlier. I'm not really doing this so much for the money. It's more for the passion, right? Because I really want to extend the reach on this whole mental health issue, which I think that's kind of a issue too with like school, with the kids that are coming out of like K through 12, the constant pressure of like, you got to go to college or you're not going to be amount to anything, you know, all this stuff. So it's, you know,
and just like we were talking earlier, you know, the constant pressure of social media.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of research out there. You know, young kids are becoming so addicted to getting likes on posts that if they don't get what they think they should get, it legitimately causes depression and suicidal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, what we do, trying to curate content, get the good pictures, get the good videos, get people to like and share our stuff. That's very wearing. That's a full-time job in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, for me anyway, I really wanted to document my hunting experience this August. I went mule deer hunting for the first time with a bow. And it was my first time out in the mountains of Montana. I was slumming around, seeing some beautiful country, and I know that it would have made for good video and picture content. But at the same time, it distracted me so much from what I was doing. The last day I was hunting, I was up on this ridge, and I was looking around, and I wanted to show my brother where I was at. I just happened to have cell phone signal, and I pulled out my phone. I got my messenger app open. I was going to video call him and let him look around. Pulled my phone up, and I'm looking around. I'm trying to call him. He's not answering. And I look past my phone, and there's a group of deer playing in this open field. Completely missed what the object was that I was supposed to be there for because I was so focused on my phone.
Yeah.
And fishing's a little different. I mean, you can't really hold a phone and cast at the same time and do all that stuff.
I've done it very stupidly, but I've done it. It's not
an easy way to lose my phone, brother.
Oh, yes, it is. And luckily, I've dropped my phone, but not in the water. Luckily. And I'm never doing that again.
I've done it one time. We were at a pay lake, and I had my phone out. It was pitch black. I don't know what I was doing. Sending a text to my wife or something, and it slipped out of my hand. It was like slow motion out of a movie. I saw it roll out of my hand, and it hit the bank. I was like, oh, no. It was splashed right in the water. Just kind of does this crazy thing floating down in the water, and when it hits the bottom, the screen lights up.
Oh,
and
no.
I can see my phone plain as day at the bottom of this muddy-ass pay lake where catfish roll around. So there you go. Roll up your pants, jump in, grab your phone. And, luckily that time, my phone, I was able to dry it out, but the constant distractions are something that my kids, and your niece and nephew, they're going to have to learn to cope with those things. And it's something that you and I really didn't have to worry about until very recently.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned, going into high school, if you wanted a girl's telephone number, you had to write it down. Now you can just send a dick pic to somebody on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and then their friends share it, and then before you know it, the whole school has seen your business.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that unless you were stupid enough to stand in front of someone with a camera.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to cope with those things because me personally, I don't have the knowledge base to coach them through it because I didn't experience it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe their offspring, they'll be able to tell them, hey, listen, don't do that. That's stupid. But, the mental health crisis that our young kids are going through it's almost, I don't want to say it's ignored, but I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because mental health is a serious thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think mental health with the youth is not as brushed off as like just mental health in general. But there is some things that came to mind when I first started this podcast. Like, for example, how social media affects women or young girls more than it does young boys. Like we mentioned earlier, men are wired different than women. Like when it comes to, and a lot of people, when I tell them that, they think that it's because of like the body image, right? Which I'm not saying it's not a factor, but I need to look up the study again because it's been a while since I've seen it. But like there was this one psychiatrist that was like talking about it, and basically his analysis was that since men, even like before, if you take out social media, young boys, the way they bullied more through physical interactions, punching people, pushing people, things like that. You go home, you don't see that person, you don't get punched, pushed, or anything. Prior to social media with women, it was more, oh no. Sorry guys, give me a second. All right, we're back. Had a bit of technical difficulties on my end, but so just a heads up, if those that are watching this on YouTube, the whole video will not be able to play, but at least we have the audio. So I'll work around that. Anyway, so continuing to what we were discussing. So even, like I said, even prior to social media, women tend to bully themselves more cerebral. It's more of a cerebral thing where, and it kind of plays into the whole body image thing, right? Because it's like, well, you're this, you're that, you're not pretty enough, you're ugly. The worst thing, the reason why like the social media, or at least what it was believed, is that so guys, when it's physical, they go home, they don't have to worry about it. Young girls, they go home, and if they have like I think at the time I remember it was MySpace, but like now Facebook, they have Facebook, MySpace, and all that stuff. They're still gonna get it from the girls, like if they're dedicated enough, like the mean girls. They're still gonna get it because now you're gonna be harassed like through messages and all that other stuff. And even now, like with Photoshop, like I've seen some stories of like harassment like that, and it's like they put like a picture of a girl's head on a pig and things like that, and yeah, like it's more cerebral with women, and that's what he inferred from all this data, that basically that's the reason why social media, I mean that's the reason why young girls have more trouble with like suicide and things like that than young guys. So
have you always been interested in mental health? Since you've got an IT degree, I'm just kind of curious as to why you didn't pursue mental health a little bit.
So it's a weird thing that where I kind of like how I grew up, because so I seen it personal where it's like I've seen kind of abusive relationships, right? So in that regard, I was always like, okay, well, it shouldn't be like that. And mental health was something that I kind of really wanted to like kind of like continue researching, and but the funny thing is that even IT wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. Like I actually just wanted to cook. Like that was like, yeah, that was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a cook and eventually probably own my own restaurant. Yeah, and
that's so funny. One of the first people I talked to, the guy started off the same way. He was like some kind of chef, and then before he knew it, he was involved in this organization that helped disabled people, kayak, hike, summit, all this stuff. It's kind of funny. It's just,
yeah. Yeah, the reason, like, but even when I was going through before the COVID experience, like, I always at least tried my best to not, at least to be like not necessarily brush off people like, oh, that person's weird and all that stuff. Like growing up, even like in high school, like I wasn't like the popular kid, but I wasn't the least popular kid. I was like right in the middle, and a lot of times some of the less popular kids, they consider me a friend, and I never really like turned them down, right? It was a bit of a not a burden, but like in high school, like given the social dynamic that is. So I took a few points in the social scale, right? I mean, it's just kind of stupid, but I didn't really care. Because like the one thing that I've always been, and it's still like I am now, is I'm not very trendy. I do things. I mean, this part has been a little bit better because it's always like I do what I want. A lot of times it bit me in the butt. I've gotten a little bit less impulsive on that aspect, but so from that regard, like I've always been very empathetic and very sympathetic, and I used to do some community service where we kind of just went on Skid Row and just gave food to the homeless and saw the situation there and saw that because there's some people there, even though they were like their motor skills were all great, they weren't all there mentally. So it's something that I've always wanted to pursue, and I tried my best to be, in terms of like trying to change the world and trying to do something about it. But I think a lot of that, the reason why this didn't manifest itself earlier, is because it was a lot of self-doubt, again, because of the whole failure thing and all that stuff. Because I was just like, well, I'm probably not good enough to really do anything. I'm not. Why even bother trying? There's a lot of complacency that kind of ran into that. So I was just like, all right, well, I'm fine. If I meet somebody, I'll talk to them, be all cool, whatever. But then the funny thing is that, like, there's like, because I was opening myself up to dialogue like that, there was, and especially like, I hate to just bash LA, but especially in LA, where the interactions are not as genuine as they are here in Texas. I opened myself up to a lot, and like a lot of people try to take advantage of that, right? So then from that point on, this was like probably like my early 20s. I went in through like little cycles where it's like I hardened myself up, and then I opened myself up, hardened myself, and back and forth. And just like COVID was the one, like the straw that broke the camel's back, where I was just like, okay, enough's enough. It might not help anything, but I definitely got to do something about it because I can't just stay still anymore. Like I just can't. And that's why the podcast came about. And like it wasn't something where I was like, well, I want to make the most amount of money. So this is why I chose, mental health, because realistically, I mean, there's plenty of other topics that I can just sit around and critique political videos all day and that will make money with it, in some shape or form. Easy, which I don't want to do. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. But yeah, and that's kind of, to answer your question, long story, believe it or not, that's the short version of the story.
Yeah. It's interesting. On the last podcast you did, you mentioned something about you really had just started like seriously fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Why fishing? Why not hunting or some other outdoor recreation?
So I used to hike already. The only other thing that I would do that's somewhat outdoorsy was run, and I would run and lift weights, right? But I mean, lifting weights is more of an indoor thing. So I've always wanted to actually hunt and fish and do some kind of archery. It's just that it wasn't in my family, even though surprisingly my granddad owned a farm, and but my dad was not an outdoors person, and nobody in my family is. I'm the first person where I'm actually going out of my way to teach myself all that stuff. The reason why fishing specifically, why I guess you can say fishing kind of saved my life. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the reason why that was is because the guy on my second episode, he grew up, hunting, fishing, and everything. So he was trying to get me to go hunt out in California. I never got my license though. So I mean, yeah, at the time I didn't get my hunting's license, so that's why I never hunted with him. But he at least took me fishing. We went fishing. We went off the coast of Newport Beach, and I was just like, dude, this is awesome. I actually, I like fishing. But then I got, again, the complacency issue. I got lazy and everything, and I just didn't pick it up. When I got to Texas, I saw a rod and reel combo, the ugly stick combo, for like $30. I bought it, and I showed my buddy. I'm like, hey, look, I finally got my spinning reel. And he's like, all right, cool. And then it just sat there for about a year. Like, literally, yeah. It just sat there for about a year. Then COVID happened. And then I'm like laying down on my couch, just like looking up at the ceiling. I'm like, man, what the, because I was already feeling kind of like depressed and everything. Especially because, again, all my family was in California and the restrictions there were worse. The food shortages were worse there. So I looked at the spinning rod and I was just like, all right, screw this. Let's go to Cabela's or let's go to a Bass Pro. And I went to the outdoor store, and sure enough, it was like the guy was like, all right, well, this is what you need for fishing. And he just hooked me up with like a random crankbait. And like, I don't know why he gave me split shots. I was like, how am I going to use, like, I mean, I know this now, but like at the time I was just like, okay. So my first cast ever, because I just went out and did it by myself. I put, I think, 2 or 3 split shots on a crankbait. So it was like wobbling all weird and not even the way it was supposed to be doing it. And then I got the lure stuck and it just had to cut the line. And I was just like, okay, yeah. So
that's almost a mental health crisis right there, losing the crankbait.
Yeah, because I was looking at the damn thing. I was like, dude, this is $5. I just lost $5 right here. Yep. And I was just like, oh man, I'm never gonna get this. But and then like I mentioned in the last episode, I just started getting on YouTube. Just like how to cast a spinning reel, how to different baits to work during the fall, during the spring and all that stuff. And yeah, man, just went at it. And then eventually I started learning how to use bait casters, and here I am.
That's fascinating. And just because I grew up with it, I've been hunting and fishing since I was probably 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm over the point now where losing lures affects me. I'm just like, oh well, I lost it, no big deal. Does angling help you mentally calm down?
Yeah, definitely. There's only been one instance where it didn't, and that was because I was still trying to work with some issues for myself. In an episode that I haven't published yet, as of the date that we're recording this. So one of the things that I kind of discovered is that I just kind of need to stop trying to prove things to people. Even to myself, like I just don't want to like, because I think the part of it was that I was still like my own biggest critic. So for me, it was just an issue of like adapting to that and kind of like, all right, well, like nobody really cares like what you do or anything like that. Like I just kind of went at it that way. And again, I stopped trying to prove things to people, which is kind of like the funny thing because like I post certain pictures on Instagram and people are like, wow, that's a great photo. And I comment back like, are you serious? Like, yeah, that's a good photo, good angle. I'm like, I honestly didn't even know. Just like, all right, well, this is the only place I could put my phone to take the picture because I'm here by myself. So let's just put it right there and take it that way, you know? So, and again, because I was just like, all right, well, this is what I'm going to post on my page. Whoever likes it, likes it. Whoever doesn't, doesn't. There was a little bit of stress because, again, I was trying to grow my presence for like the future businesses that I'm trying to open up. But once I got past all of that, like there's never been a day where fishing has not calmed me down. Again, that one instance was just because I was fed up with so much stuff with work and other things. And I remember I was just angrily casting out there and poor fish. I could hook the fish with the popper and I tried yanking it out. And that fish flew like just because that thing flew. And I'm just like, and my buddy who I was with, he was just like, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm like, man, I'm so pissed off, dude, right now. I'm just like, I need to relax. And it was a little like, it wasn't like maybe like a 12-inch fish, maybe a 12-inch bass. It was a little small one, but I chucked that thing far, man. Yeah, I chucked that poor sucker far, and I was just like, "Oh man!" I felt so bad for the fish, and I think that kind of calmed me down because I was like, I was just like, dude,
Perspective, like that poor little fish suffered because of my anger.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and that's basically what like that's what's been my experience with the outdoors and mental health. I mean, like I wasn't gonna wait until I was proficient in like all the outdoor activities to start this podcast. Like I just wanted, because I mean, the main focus was the mental health aspect. But yeah, I mean, I eventually want to work my way up to bow hunting. But I mean, I'm not shy of like, I'm not afraid of like rifle hunting. It's just, I have my rifle. I have I'm 30-06. That's what I want to shoot like some hogs out here with. But it's just the opportunity hasn't come up.
My bow will be hanging next year. I will have a rifle. Bow hunting out here is so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's so dry and crunchy that stalking on an animal is almost impossible.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me. I got busted every single time I went out. I was over 100 yards away, and I just had deer staring directly at me. They knew exactly where I was at. So next year it'll be rifle, and I will actually be able to fill a tag because I went. Let's see, I had to turn my elk tag back in because of wildfires. I struck out on my mule deer tag and I struck out on my turkey tag. So I've got some growing to do. I had a lot of tag soup this year.
Well, you're already in a better position than I am. I mean, you have more experience than I do, so I'm just waiting to see. I'm literally putting the cart before the horse because I'm already looking into buying hunting property, and I have never even hunted before. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Find someone, make friends with them that really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I've got a neighbor he's a certified killer. He filled, let's see, 5 or 6 deer tags this year, a moose tag, a bear tag.
Oh, wow.
He's a savage. There's nothing safe when he's around.
Oh, damn.
So find someone like that. And with what I've been trying to do with the podcast, when I first started, I really didn't have a really clear, defined picture of what I wanted to do. Like you knew mental health. For me, I just knew that I wanted to talk to a wide range of people that did different outdoor activities. My thought process was someone out there is going to listen to one of those episodes and go, why have I never done that? And hopefully hearing that person's experience will be enough to motivate them to get up and try it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, hearing stories from people that have an organization where they took a lady with cerebral palsy in this basically a wheelbarrow up a 14,000-foot mountain here in Colorado. There are people out there that want everybody to get outdoors no matter what. And I want to be a part of that scene. I want to do my little part. And if it's exposing people to kayaking, whitewater rafting, hiking, whatever it takes, eventually I'm going to land on something, and someone out there is going to go, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. I'd love to go hiking.
Yeah.
And they've never done it before, but they listened to a podcast where I had an all-women's hiking group. You know, maybe it's a woman that feels insecure about going hiking by herself. She doesn't have to, because there are people out there that will go with her.
Right.
And that's what I really wanted to do. Whether it's helped any or not, I don't know. But in my mind, I'm doing my part. I'm trying.
Well, I mean, the best thing you can do is so my intention was put information out there. Like you said, like if somebody takes it, runs with it, and is successful, makes the touchdown or whatever, I'll be happy for sure. Absolutely. But my main goal was just to put the information. My first goal, which is basically get the podcast started. The next goal is market the podcast so you have more of an audience. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was just like, where do I go from here? Maybe down the road, I plan on doing a little bit more research and actually write a book, and maybe publish a book on mental health.
That's fascinating. I know me and the guy that started 12 Hike, Brad, we're going to do a compilation book together of outdoor stories and kind of the area we grew up in. So that's fascinating. And I'm actually going to take a slight, I don't want to say detour, but a slight modification of what I'm doing. I'm going to start working my way across the United States and doing these little snippet infomercial type things on various state parks in all the states. Because again, maybe there's people that just don't even know where to begin.
Right.
And if I can say, hey, there's a state park right here. It's this big. You can do these things, and it's open this time of year. Maybe that's enough to help somebody out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, is more to the true nature of what 12 Hike was all about, was helping people get outdoors.
Right.
And that little bit of information probably would go further than me talking to some organization that deals with, disabled veterans. You reach a broader audience that way. Yeah,
I mean, again, to the question that you were asking about, like earlier, whether how long have I been about mental health? So, I mean, I've done little things that, one of the things that I'm kind of like, I don't hate myself for this, but I do look back and I'm like, I can't believe I was doing these little things. Like, for example, the whole thing about 22 vets a day committing suicide. Somehow I thought that changing my jersey number in my sports to 22 was going to make a difference. Stuff like that, where it was just like, no, I'm just kind of like a lot of people that are looking at the jersey are not really going to know, unless I yell it out to them, across the soccer field, basketball court and all that stuff. Hey, this is because of 20, Yeah. So, I mean, the book, my whole purpose with the book, and again, it's still, a long ways to go for that. But the only thing I know that I want to put into the book is basically just kind of build the confidence, because I look at self-help books. I look at self-help, figures, I guess we would call them. Their biggest downfall, me in my personal opinion, is that they try to do a one-size-fits-all approach. And this is already not counting the ones that are just full of crap, because there's several of those. But just the ones that that have had their own success, and they're like, well, this is what you gotta do. This is what you gotta do. And I've said this before on previous episodes. If there's some people that will react very phenomenally with a swift kick in the butt. Others, you do that, you just break them. That's it. They're done. So the thing that I want to get with the book is I want to try to look as I'm sorry, I'm just stuttering. I'm going to try to attack it from a point of just the self-confidence type of thing. That's going to be my biggest thing in that. And it's not even going to be so much outdoor centric as much as I wanted it to be. But it's going to be those type of things. And That's where where I was talking about, where I want to do more research, because I want to, and I'm hoping this kind of plays into that, because I want to see, okay, what type of demons does a person or XYZ people fear the most? What is it? What is the underlying issue? And then just get those topics out and put those specifically in chapters in the book.
And the people you've talked to, have they laid out any of the things that held them back from doing what they did? I know you spoke with someone that was kind of like a horse trainer, had some kind of horse ranch or something.
Yeah.
She battled with some things. What bugs people the most, you think, and what are the best ways for them to get over some of those problems?
So right now, what I've seen that the underlying issue of the last few episodes, the ones that I published, is two things. One, the what is it? The constant seeking of approval, which is what the girl that owns her own equestrian company was talking about, and then also probably the one that I kind of want to talk about the most is the fact that you have figures like Cameron Haynes, Jocko Willenick, David Goggins, Joe Rogan, all phenomenal athletes, all phenomenal people, and they work hard, right? And my thing is that it's not even just with them. Those are just the examples I'm bringing out because, again, outdoors. So my thing is that people often look at them for inspiration, which is fine, but we got to be careful to not fall in those pitfalls, because, like, for example, you look at somebody like Goggins who had a good amount of weight on him, and now he's like really slim and ripped. To not basically, the pitfall that I'm talking about is like, you look at that person, you're like, well, I want to be there already. I want to give myself 6 months to be there already, and you actually do more harm than good, because again, the one size fit all approach doesn't work.
Yeah, I think as a society we suffer very badly from instant gratification.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
And then whenever we don't get that instant gratification, it's very hard to come out of that. Doing what those guys do, the hyper successful people, they don't do that overnight. Mm-mm. That is years and years and years of changing your life, and waking up every morning and making conscious decisions. Because, waking up in the morning and not working out to make your body look a little bit better and so you feel a little better about yourself, that's a decision. You decided not to work out. Mm-hmm. You have to condition yourself, so however you do it, condition your mind to get a little bit stronger. Okay, I am going to do this. Not necessarily even have to, because when you put yourself into like an ultimatum state, it's really easy to go, well, I'll suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
You need to condition your mind to harden yourself that I want to do this, I'm going to do this, and eventually my life will be where I want it to be.
Yeah. To add to that, so one of my guests, and I've actually talked about this with other people. So one of the things that deteriorates mental health is, the fear of pain, right? But, pain is necessary to a certain degree, because sometimes you can't get out of a situation. Sometimes the best way, like, how do you get from point A to point B when there's a bunch of thorn bushes? Just push through. If you have something to clear it out, well, obviously, okay, that helps. But, so in certain situations, it's better to just kind of like the pull the Band-Aid approach, kind of. Sometimes you need to hurt yourself a little bit, but getting rid of a toxic relationship, getting rid of some other thing that's then in that kind of like field. You get rid of that toxic relationship, you can advance eventually. But a lot of people are worried about the pain that comes with it. But in reality, worrying about that short, immediate pain is just going to prolong the current pain you're already feeling.
Yeah, and speaking just personally, when it comes to men's mental health, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times. It's hard for us to vocalize what's bothering us. We have a hard time showing our emotions. We cram it down and we try to keep it in. Mm-hmm. Me personally, as far as some strategies, if maybe there are guys out there that are having a hard time dealing with some of their demons. I've taken to journaling, and I know it sounds like a high school girl thing, but I can write things down.
Oh my God, not again. Sorry guys, my audio again cut out. I don't know what it is about my phone. Alrighty, so again, technical difficulties, my fault. I think I addressed them. All right, so you were saying about strategies with coping as a male.
Yeah. For me, I've always had trouble verbalizing my issues, so journaling, I've just started doing it. It's really helped me a lot. The other big thing, the only other major change I've made in my life over the past few weeks is changing my phone habits. So when I wake up in the mornings, the first thing I do is I would pick up my phone, go through Facebook, check my emails, do all that stuff. You're talking 5:30 in the morning, getting on a device and mindlessly just scrolling through stuff. I don't do that anymore. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I go downstairs and I make a glass of chocolate milk for my kid now. And instead of scrolling through my phone, we sit there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we watch cartoons together and we talk. And that one little thing I think has changed my whole outlook on life more than anything.
Okay.
Because I became a slave to a device, and it's not a good feeling. No one should be in that situation. But making just those couple little subtle changes, and then not beating yourself up because you backslide a little bit. You've mentioned this several times. You know, you can judge progress by going forward. You may not be going 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
But as long as you're going 1 mile an hour, you're doing something.
Yep.
So, and that's where the journal comes in too, because you can reflect, and even strategizing how you journal. Do a quick recap of your day, what you did good, what you can improve on. And then you can look back at that and go, okay, I said I was going to do these things. Did I do them? And it's really just as basic as that. And once you get some of those little things in your life under control, the things you can control easily, it's easier to move on to some of the bigger things.
Right.
Problems you have in your marriage or your relationships, problems you have with your family, and just eliminate the things that don't really matter. Looking at politics all the time, get out of the echo chamber. Don't worry about that stuff. Put it down for a while. See how it changes your life, and a lot of people might be surprised at what happens.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty solid to wrap up on. I'll just add to it by pointing out one fact that because we talked about how young girls are affected more in terms of their mental health because of social media, but it's kind of ironic because we look at adults and males have the more the higher suicide rate than women do. So it's kind of weird how that flips around a little bit. Also, yeah, you brought up a good point. I do say that a lot because it's true. You're still progressing if the tire's still rotating. As long as the tire's rotating, doesn't matter how fast it's going. As long as it's rotating, you can. You have control of a lot of things. The basic thing that you can control is not stopping the wheels from turning. Another thing that I always say is when you look at again, I'm taking it out of the show community where it's the hardest prisons to get out of are the ones without bars. That to me, the first thing that comes in mind, mental prisons. Those are a mother effer. Nobody is your worst critic other than yourself. You put yourself in a mental prison, and it's ridiculously hard to get out of that. Some people don't even make it out. That's why we have suicides. A lot of people want a quick fix to a lot of situations, but we need to get down to the root cause. And that root cause is different for everybody else. But yeah. So, all right. So we're already a little bit past the 1 hour mark. Do you have any other final thoughts you want to go ahead and discuss?
It's okay to struggle. Struggle's good. It's healthy. It makes you stronger, a better person. Get out and force yourself to do something that's out of your comfort zone. I'm sure that you had the same feelings that I did starting your podcast. You're not good enough. what you're putting out there, people aren't going to be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Shove all those things aside and do it. Because if you don't put yourself out there and do something you really want to do, you're going to just live with regret for the rest of your life.
Right.
And whether that's moving from California to Texas or moving from Ohio to Colorado, yeah, those things are hard. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't know where it's going to take you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's solid. I mean, my final thought is basically like, again, it's to adding to your point, like, don't be afraid of taking calculated risks. I mean, you can do a calculated risk if you have a safety net or not, but at the end of the day, just commit to something, really. Do research. The internet is, obviously it's not free, but, it's relatively free. And just make sure you vet your research and see if it applies to you. Set small goals, really small goals that will continue your progress. And also don't idolize another person for what they have too much or for where they're at too much, because one of the things that, like, as you saw with, as you can kind of see with my fishing, I'm trying to make it a little bit different than other just fishing posts, like fishing profiles where they're just constantly posting pictures of fish. And again, it's not to knock on anyone. Like, you run your account however you want, but like, I am trying to be in the same area, but establish a point of difference. A lot of people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll say that's the thing about social media. It's like a filter. People only put out there what they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing the absolute best of what they think they're capable of. You don't know what other things they're hiding.
Right. I mean, and you never know. Like, honestly, like my archery videos and like when I've posted a few, they've actually done tremendously well compared to my fishing stuff. You never know.
I don't get social media. I put a picture up of my grandpa holding a little bluegill. That thing had over 14,000 impressions. Who knows? Social media is weird, but try not to make your life about social media.
Yeah.
But to me, that's one of the biggest things you can do.
Yeah, I mean, remember to put down the device. Like you said earlier, because I used to make fun of the people that would put an entire concert on their story. Like, and I was just like, well, you're missing out on the concert. Like, just freaking enjoy it. Maybe post some pictures here and there, but like, other than that, like, come on. So, yeah.
And all that being said, make sure you get on Facebook and you go to 12 Hike. And you like my page because it'll make me very happy. And then go over to Instagram, 12 Hike Challenge, and like that and follow us because it'll make me very happy. And then search the 12 Hike podcast on Google's and download all my episodes and listen to them because it'll make me very happy also.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, where can they find you? But then again, you have more experience doing the podcast than I do. So, yeah, perfect. So you guys know where to find them. I will also provide for the YouTube follower watchers. I'll provide your handles there. 12 Hike Challenge Instagram, 12 Hike on Facebook, and 12
Hike on YouTube.
And 12 Hike on YouTube.
I've just started doing video interviews, so my big goal was to do product reviews and stuff, but that's a lot of work creating those kinds of videos, and I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, I had two ideas for YouTube series that I wanted to start that I haven't seen before. I'm not going to say it on air, but I'm not going to say it on air because the reason why I don't have the equipment and I don't have the time. I mean, I can make the time. That's not an issue. The equipment is the issue. So once I get the equipment going, you might see something kind of unique, and we'll see if it takes off.
Yeah, well, heck, by that time we'll both be sponsored by some big, crazy outdoor place, and we'll be flying high.
Come on, Matthews. Let's go. Sponsor me now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we hope that you guys enjoyed the discussion. I apologize for the YouTube viewers that the video is a little choppy, and same thing for those that are listening. I'm trying to have to put together 3 different audio pieces because of, what happened with my technology, but hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, and we'll see you guys again for the next episode. Thanks again, Zach.
Yep, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Anytime.